was watching. You know where all the fat guys are playing? They're on the DP World Tour, Lubie.
Oh, Afi Barnrat's there? That's where Afi Barnrat is?
I don't know if Afi Barnrat, Kiridash Afi Barnrat, was the favorite golfer of the show. He would always root for him. He traditionally would be somewhat in contention after one round and then fade because he was stuffing his face with Spada's original hoagies, while the other guy is eating like 2 bites of a banana and then folding the peel back on it and giving it to his caddy.
He's like competing
There's that Barnrat. He's got like a French dip. Dripping from his face. He's asking his caddy not whether he should hit a 7 or an 8 iron, but for more juice.
He's just drinking the old Jew. He didn't give a shit about the putt.
Did he use the belly putter? That would have only been appropriate. We used to bring him up to every golfer that we had on the show, every golf analyst.
Because he was classic to watch, the guy. Like, Stadler actually wasn't that fat. He was just like a bigger dude. Like, Afi Barnrat was fat. Like, he was a big ass.
Just fat. I mean, the first time I saw the guy, I was like, no, this can't be like the PGA Tour. Can you imagine when he was at the Players Buffet where the guy takes like half an egg? And there's that Barnrat just taking whole trays over to his table.
The guy weighs like 80 pounds.
All those guys are on the DP World Tour now, Lubie, if you're a fan of golf.
The time! Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, the handsome guy over there, is one Mike Lubie Lubitz. A very excited Mike Lubie Lubitz. Only we could do this, though, Lubie. I believe this to be true. We unveiled some of our massive coverage leading up to the NCAA tournament. We're going to have all kinds of different people on, coaches, bracketologists. Hopefully, I don't know. Is it necessary if we're going to be covering college basketball to have Joe Lunardi on at some point? Yeah. Does he even do interviews? I don't know. Have we ever had Joe Lunardi on a show? I want to say no to that.
No.
All right. So I started to stick my big fat mouth into and thoughts into the play here. And what did I come up with, Lubie? I came up with the old theory and the story once again. It's a pretty simple one. MGM Grand, when they first opened up, they had a magnificent sports room that also included their simulcasting for horse racing. Now, I would imagine the sports betting room might have expanded over the years, but they kind of cast the poor horse players off to the side. They were in a very small room after a while. So it wasn't really favorable to go to the MGM Grand. You weren't going out of your way to go to the MGM Grand. You remember, you were in the Mirage with us, weren't you, when PC hit with I'll Have Another on the Kentucky Derby? Was that not a spectacular way? If you were watching the NCAA tournament, would that not be a room conducive to your viewing enjoyment where like 10,000 people in there all yelling and screaming, yeah. Got a giant screen as if you were in the most magnificent theater somewhere in Los Angeles, covers the whole wall. How big was that screen when we were watching the Derby? It had to be, 1,000 feet? I'm not even sure.
100 feet, it was huge.
It was like you were sitting in the Sphere by yourself and being served martinis, topped off right at the brim of the glass. You couldn't ask for a more spectacular setting. So I remember being in the MGM Grand Sportsbook and Racebook at the time, and this guy who he's got books in front of him and all kinds of papers and everything, and he's thumbing through them like a maniac before every race. And every race he gets up, he goes, come on with that 6, come on with that 6. And the 6 would prevail by wide margins. So we thought, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
So my buddy, the Mighty Melendez, and I go over, start probing around a little bit, like, how you doing this? It seems like you're hitting every race. He goes, well, you know what it is? It's all about horse body language.
Oh, God.
So, body language? What are you talking about? I mean, this was new to us. It was a foreign concept. Although, I mean, look, people have always had theories about horses when they step out on a track. That was big in dog racing, where if the dog took a dump, that was the dog to bet on, especially if he weighed over 60 pounds. All this cockamamie stuff that you lead yourself to believe, so that you can convince yourself that as your money is going up in smoke, as you're just throwing it into a fire, that you actually did it with some semblance of logic backing up your predictions and your positions. So anyway, we spent a lot of time with this guy. We hit a bunch of races, and then at the end of the day, after his whole thing about horse body language, he handed us a little pamphlet with various things to look at. And then about 4 o'clock, 2 guys, literally, Lubie, in white coats, white jackets, like hospital jackets, come and they take the guy away and they go, okay. He went by Sprint Rogers, and I don't even think they called him that. His name was like Herman Zankovich or something. And they said, "Okay, Herman, time to go back to the facility."
Oh God.
The guy was a complete effing nut job. I mean, there was no other way to look at it. So we thought, wow, that's interesting that this crazy guy could have possibly come up with a theory that was working for us. But does that mean that it has long term credibility? And the answer to that might be no, although I'm still going by this guy's theories to a certain extent at the track there. I see a horse with a bowed neck, boom, I'm all over it. And there may be some merit to the theory. But that being said, we tried to become bracket busters, didn't we, Lubie? And what was I professing for the last several days here on the program? My body language theory about Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers.
Oh, jeez.
Where I'm saying, hey, plus 350, maybe we're overlooking the obvious, you chalk-playing losers. Maybe we're overlooking the obvious. That the two shortest prices going into the tournament will be Auburn, which I don't know if that price adjusts a little bit because they lost yesterday. But Auburn and Duke are right about the same number. It was like plus 350, plus 325, something like that, which if you really are convinced, if you're convinced that you're sitting on a cinch, which is hard to imagine that any team could be a cinch to win 6 straight tournament games, Libby, what do you think? I mean, as treacherous as winning 4 series to win the Stanley Cup, best of 7s, maybe not, as you can get hot, rattle off a 6-game winning streak, but you're rattling off a 6-game winning streak in theory against escalating talent and better teams all the way through. You're constantly moving up into another tough slot, and it just gets more and more degree of difficulty ratchets up. All of a sudden, you're Luganis trying to do a 3.6 dive there off the Acapulco cliffs, and anything can happen, right? Were those rocks down there? Oh, you mistimed the tide. Next thing you know, your head is splattered all over the place. So my theory was that Bruce Pearl was so connected with his team, Louis, so connected with his team that this was going to be the spark that ignited them to go all the way at plus 325, giving out the, gagging chalk milk of magnesia as a team that cannot be overlooked. What kind of genius does it take to come up with that, Louis? Were you laughing at me when I started to espouse the theory?
No, I sort of believed you. They've been playing really well.
Until yesterday, when one of the so-called sleeper teams to win it all, Texas A&M, was Mahomes chucking a rock for these guys? Texas A&M. They beat Auburn handily, 83-72. Auburn had been undefeated in SEC play on the road. They had been 9-0 prior to that point. They were not overwhelming favorites in this game. I think they were only laying 4 or 5 points, something like that. And they dropped to 27-3. Supposedly that won't impact them in the rankings, that they'll still be the number 1 team, and maybe deservedly so. But nonetheless, is it possible that we put a curse on the Auburn Tigers by backing the chalk?
Well, it's weird because
I didn't guarantee any victories or anything. There's much to be considered, you would have to say, no?
Yeah. I mean, look, you saw the conference tournament. Teams lose. A&M was ranked. It's just A&M had hit a rough patch lately. Like, they not only were losing, they were getting hammered. They lost by like 20-30 to Florida. They lost before that. They have not been playing good basketball.
No, I don't think they've had a win in 2 weeks, maybe 3.
Couple weeks they haven't played well. So to be on a hot streak, to not only lose A&M, again, the SEC is tough. This is what, to me, sets them apart from the rest of basketball right now, is whoever gets out of there will be battle tested. But to lose like that, like they lost by double digits. And again, A&M was struggling. But look, every time a team gets a number 1, you see that a lot of the time in college basketball. Like the Lakers feel that they're being the hunted. You're the hunted. And you're in a conference right now that is the toughest conference in the sport, sort of by a lot. So every week, every game, because they'll play 2-3 times a week, like you're playing a top 25 team. Like most of the SEC is like top 25. I didn't realize Mississippi State was top 25. Like the whole conference is top 25. There's no, like, even though A&M's struggling, they're still a team that's been ranked for most of the season. So like you can't take a night off, and they're kids. Like that's what we see. Look, we see the NBA. We see the NBA where teams just sort of fluff around. Like, why wouldn't you get that in college?
As soon as I proclaimed them to be the most unified group surrounding and around a coach that I have seen this year in college basketball, and that's saying a lot. And I did kind of put a parenthetical out there saying, listen, it's not always easy to read the level of sincerity in a post-game celebration. The coach is jumping up and down and the players are around him. But I thought I read this. I go back to the Sprint Rogers horror story again, where it turned out that the guy was just a flaming nutbag. And we thought he had credibility. So my theory damaged some last night, and it shows you again why it is. And this was met with some pushback and resistance, Luby. Our theory about the cleaning lady by no less of an authority on college. Been to how many Final Fours? The lovely and talented Leslie Visser covering Final Fours, knows every coach, every nuance about the game. Nothing but respect for the pioneer in women's broadcasting. As look, she thought we were being disparaging about cleaning ladies and saying, well, why couldn't some high-powered female attorney, win the office pool?
Well, I mean, I think
That doesn't happen. You know this.
She was talking to Sarney because Sarney wants us to find a cleaning lady. Like, I think she got our point. Like, it wasn't that we were targeting the cleaning. The whole building would do it.
Yes.
And the cleaning lady who barely knew, and again, we're not making
who knew nothing.
She barely knew English. She didn't know anything about college basketball. It was just you would pick by the mascot would kick everyone's ass every year. Like, it was just how it was. It was it's the tournament, and they would always look at us like, oh, you're the sports people. Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous trying to pick the goddamn tournament. Like, it's utterly miraculous and luck. Like, that's what it is half the time.
Exactly. So to go into it with any kind of definitive opinions and thinking that they're conclusive is bizarre. And of course, I get socked in the face right away. The old Mike Tyson thing. Everybody has a plan A until they get hit in the face.
Yep.
Everybody has a game plan, and then things have to change. But my horse body language theory really was damaged critically yesterday. Now, I'm a believer in this, and to Leslie Visser's point, it's not about the stature or the status of the person. I've been an advocate of this my whole life, Louie. All work is good work.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the head of some hedge fund and you're making billions of dollars, or you're the guy that's sweeping up the dust on the streets of some construction site. All work is good work. It's all honorable. You go to work, you put your lunch pail down, you do your 8 hours, you come back, you go home, you feel like a schmuck, and then you get ready to do it again the next day. But whatever you endeavor to do, you have to hope in life, and I hope this for all people, that they found something they really love to do as a job, and then realized as they were doing it, and it's not always easy in this business, Luby, as you know. Because as much as we love doing this, and you would dream about having a career as a sports announcer, and you get way more adulation than you could possibly ever deserve. People are always patting you on the back. Hey, I love what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's very satisfying and gratifying to think that something that you did actually meant something, had some value to people, even if you're broke. By the time you hit the end of the road, it really doesn't matter, because the other key then is to not only find something that you love to do, so it never seems like work, but to love it as you're doing it. And in our business, especially towards the end there of the radio run, when you realized, I think everybody here is against me, and all of their ideas are horrible. So we're not going to fit with this group. And then you realize you're about to get hosed. And sure enough, it's hard to fight that off and still love it every day. But we managed to do it, Lubie. I have to say, I have to applaud you for hanging in there no matter what was going on, no matter what's going on now. And in the past, last few years, of course, as we scuffled our way to try and find a good spot in the streaming world, which we feel we now have with the great people at Bleacher Brothers and A.J. Johnson. This whole crew is really making strides, and I think it's going to be a big hit for us. So that's good. It was a long search, Pilgrim, to get to this platform. I mean, we've had many ups and downs along the way. But if you can love it all the way through it, that's a good thing. And to the point of the cleaning lady, you hit it right on the head. It's the most improv. You could be in the Daily News pool when Dick Hoops Weiss was writing for the Daily News, a guy that knows everything that you could possibly imagine. Len Robbins at the New York Post, our good friend Len Robbins, he could have been in the college basketball pool, and you still had a better shot if you put your money on the cleaning lady.
Oh, 100%. I was trying to said I should have my wife try and do it. She probably would kick my butt.
We've had everything. Everybody experiments with this sort of thing. Maybe we could do it as
the monkey. Remember we had
the monkey come in there?
They brought the monkey, and it just picked by bananas, and it totally annihilated me.
Red grape, green grape, or whatever, purple grape, green grape, and was picking each game in the first round and did better than we did.
It ruined me.
That's happened a zillion times. That's as old a radio gambit as you could possibly run.
Oh my God.
Where you have some animal picking for you, a dog, a parrot. But it just goes to show you what a treacherous minefield it can be if you think you know something about college basketball. And just when I thought that I did there, Auburn gets shellacked by Texas A&M last night. 83-72 was the final. They fall to 27-3. Their three losses are what? They lost to Duke. They lost to who else? They lost to another powerhouse, right?
who, Auburn?
Florida. Duke, Florida, and now Texas A&M.
Yes.
That sound about right?
Yeah. I didn't realize.
Still a good resume, though. No.
I know they lost to Florida a few weeks ago, and then they just lost to A&M. Duke.
Now that we've dove, I mean, we didn't even jump off the bandwagon. Now that we're diving off the bandwagon and feeling very regretful about, because you can only look like a real schmo if you're giving out chalk and embracing. Even if you're embracing chalk, it's true. I mean, you feel like a fool, don't you, Lubie? Who's going to get on the air and beat their chest? I like all the favorites.
Oh yeah, look, I mean, if you really think someone's going to win, that's fine, but you don't brag. Like,
right, that you have to keep very quiet.
You're supposed to be trying to pick like upsets, especially with the tournament. The picking the upsets is the thing that makes you look good, not picking the number one team in the. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the guy that comes up with Montana State to win 2 rounds of the tournament.
I mean, that's why I like our friend Blake and Ken, because they'll look at the 512s, the 413s, even some of the times the 215s, 314s, and they'll spot the upsets. And then if they nail it, they look like a hero. Like, I don't need you to tell me that Duke and Kansas, I'm not this year, Duke and Auburn and Houston are going to make it to the 8s. Thank you.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if you go into this thing with any level of faith that you actually know something, forget about it. I mean, it's a lesson in futility. It really is all the way around. And I mean, there are people, I'm sure, that have a real good feel for some of these schmanky teams that pull off these upsets in the first round. That is the real thrill. And I think, actually, Lubie, the first round is more fun. The professor was on a show with me yesterday, our conversation show. Unfortunately, we had technical difficulties with John.
I heard from Feinstein.
Well, it happened before, actually, and this time it was an even bigger disaster because we were.
Well, because he uses like Safari, and even people I know they use Apple, they don't use Safari. So I don't know why he
uses Safari. I mean, I clicked on Safari to see if I could help him, and all I heard was
it's not.
Well, what are those orangutans?
I don't know if it's outdated, but it doesn't cross over to a lot of different software. So
yeah,
we'll have to figure out a way to get him on, because I talked to him and he felt bad and I felt bad. I mean, I'm glad you had Ken on because you wanted to talk tournament anyway.
Oh, he was great. Brilliant. So. Couldn't have gotten a better analysis except for the fact that he was starting to lean with me there. I don't know if that was just being gratuitous.
Oh, God.
Ken's not inclined, the professor, to say, hey, I agree with you. Just
no.
He's more inclined to do just the opposite. Like before you even say Texas and get to the A&M, he's saying, they got no chance.
He always does. Yes, devil's advocate.
All right. So, and then there were a couple of other games of significance leading up to this whole shindig that we're going to be talking about here on Bleacher Brothers. BYU, Iowa State, double overtime. BYU prevails there. Isn't Iowa State one of those teams that is getting some measure of respect, maybe like a mid-pack choice to have some possibilities, win a couple of games in the tournament? I believe that's the case. And then Ohio State and Nebraska are playing for, I mean, is it the NIT coming up for one of those teams?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Both Bubble City, my friend. You will see them all over the place. I mean, as if they were in a pack of baseball cards and you blow that big bubble with that stale piece of gum you used to get. Ohio State and Nebraska. And Ohio State in double overtime prevails in that game. So there are a couple of games indicative of something that might happen. Johnny Broom, by the way, the outstanding player, number one player for Auburn, held to 8 points in that game. Some NBA action last night, and wow, you had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Curry back at the Garden. That's always a good one. Had a very mild, tepid, not overwhelming first half. Comes out in the third quarter, goes nuts, starts draining everything. 28 points. Golden State over the Knicks. Last night, Golden State rolling. I did not see where Jimmy Butler, I mean, is he
nothing?
Back from nursing an injury or something? Or?
He's played average. Curry's carrying them. That, like, I don't know what happened before Butler got there, what was going on with Curry. He was
being triple teamed.
They, for some reason, he's still getting cut. Butler's doing nothing. Butler's not even getting, Butler's getting barely singled. He's doing nothing. Butler looks like the dude he was in Miami. He's barely involved. Defensively, I guess he looks more pronounced than some of the other guys. But Andrew Wiggins, before he got hurt, was playing vastly better defense than Butler was playing. I watched it. I'm like, it's just Curry carrying them. Like, they're winning games, but it's not because Butler's brought a different mentality. Curry's just literally
Yeah, I
carrying
didn't
them
see the
outside.
influence. I'm with you 100% on that, Louis. We are in total agreement there, and they're crediting him as if he's helped form this transition where I think they're like 8-1 or 8-2,
They
something like
are.
that since
But I think they've learned Butler, who we once thought had this thick skin, is actually a sensitive piece of work.
Yeah.
And they're trying to give him all the credit because they're hoping to God.
Yes.
Because to get out of this, the first round in the West, they're going to need Butler. Like Curry doing this isn't going to beat a Denver or Oklahoma City or a Grizzlies, honestly. Like Curry carrying them, because the rest of their team sucks. Like Curry carrying them isn't going to win a first round series. They need Butler to be a legit number 1/2. So everyone's just fawning over him, giving him all the credit. I've watched him multiple times now. It's Curry or nothing. Like Butler, like he's barely involved. Like it's not the Heat stuff where he's sitting in the corner, like he's smiling and he's happy, but he's not taking over. And again, he doesn't fit in their offense. Like I still don't understand. Well, it's just a different mentality. Yeah, he's a give me the ball and you stand guy. Like that's 100% the opposite of what their offense was all about: ball movement and player movement. Like he's not that guy at all. He literally slows down the offense and it becomes plotting until Curry takes over, and then their offense moves again. I don't know. I think they're just trying to wake him up and keep him engaged because they know they've learned from the Heat. If you don't keep him happy, he's totally useless to you because he scored 19. He's scoring like between 15 and 20 a night.
Yeah, it was very, quiet, as they say, 19. And I had to look it up whether he was injured or not because I tuned in the game in the first quarter and he wasn't even in the lineup. And I thought, well, geez, where's Jimmy Butler? This was supposed to be a big deal. Wanted to see how things were meshing together. I've seen a couple of games and some highlights with Jimmy Butler as a member of the Golden State Warriors, but I couldn't tell you that I saw any significant change from what they were doing before, except that Steph Curry caught fire like he always does at the Garden. So how about this? As a collegiate and a pro, he's 13-1 at Madison Square Garden. He had 28 last night, 5 3-pointers. He broke the record all time for NBA 3-pointers of Ray Allen at one point at the Garden. And it was interesting to see Ray Allen and Curry embrace because from a style standpoint, they couldn't be any more dramatically opposite, could they? Or I mean, it's absolutely a 180-degree difference in the form on their shots.
Oh, yeah.
Curry looks like he's chucking from, the Coke machine. And Ray Allen went up. Didn't matter if he was 30 feet from the basket, went straight up, shot the ball at the top of his leap, and fired off a John Sunvolt type rotational special.
Yep.
That was absolutely a thing of beauty. So, and the Knicks, 8 of 33. I mean, this is exciting basketball. 8 of 33 from three-point range in a game. A lot of wide-open shots by your man Anunoby, who you keep saying is just an above-average ball player, but not the kind of guy that's going to carry you to a championship. You might be right about that. Milwaukee's heating up. Cleveland gets 139 points in a game again. They're being completely overlooked as a championship caliber team. So while we were recommending the Chalk, who ended up losing their very next outing after we started talking about college basketball, we've been talking about what I don't know how much of an upset it is to be the third-rated team in the odds to win the NBA championship. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, Lubie, how are they not being, and you've discussed this, I understand your points about the A, they haven't won before, and B, maybe they're not perfectly configured to win titles. But, wow, at 8.5 to 1, that seems like a tempting price. Could they not be better than Boston and, Oklahoma City? It's possible. I don't know.
It's under the team. They're a better team than the Celtics. Will they shrink away? Because we know Tatum's going to have an 8-point game, but the Celtics have been able to overcome that. Can they overcome Mobley and Garland shrinking away? I mean, look, again, last year when they actually looked pretty interesting in the playoffs, they didn't have Allen, who is at times anywhere from their second to fourth best player. So if they have a healthy Allen this year, maybe that changes things too. They then also added Hunter, which it wasn't Scoop who we were talking. We were talking with someone last week, and they brought up DeAndre Hunter. And
Scoop, yeah.
Was it Scoop? Okay. Then it was Scoop.
Who else would bring up something?
I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't remember how much Cavs we talked with Scoop, but yeah, because you brought up Bickerstaff and he was talking about the Cavs. Hunter is a dude that has been to a conference finals with the Hawks. He's a guy he's pretty strong, plays solid defense, and he can shoot from the outside. So he gives them some playoff experience that they really don't have. He doesn't shrink away from it. I think he won a title when he was at Virginia in college. So like he's something that they didn't have. And it's something that's the thing for the Celtics. Their bench sucks. It's not even average. It's like bad. Their bench was always but they had these guys that would play bigger. Hauser and like who gives a crap about Hauser and like the Cavs have a nice bench. The Cavs actually have a better overall roster to me. They have a better team to me. I like their start. Like Tatum will be propped up, but Mitchell never has a night off. Like when you watch Mitchell in the playoffs, the dude's averaging 25 to 35 like Tatum will have like within one series, 2 games where he scores like 8 and 10, and you don't see him touch the ball for a half. Like that's not Mitchell. Mitchell's always engaged. He's always involved. The problem for them is they're tertiary guys. They were always too young. Now, again, this is like the 3rd year of this. So maybe Mobley and Garland are ready to take that step. They've done it all year, right? They're 51 and 10. Like they haven't been that before. Like, so it's interesting to me to see how people are gauging them. I think in a series, if they get home court, I think if they have home court, I think they'll beat the Celtics. It's the Thunder. The Thunder are a team very much like them. They're deep. They play hard. They're young. They're well coached. They have a chip because they got knocked out early last year when they really looked like they were coming together. They have one of the top 10 to top 5. He may be the best player in the league right now, SG.
He's going to win the MVP, I believe. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, although you're not going to make any money if you go ahead and lay out
the Thunder will be the team that because they just have it all, and they're very reminiscent of the Cavs where they're young. That's their only issue. They haven't done it yet. Like the Celtics to me are weird. Like the Celtics got an easy path last year, and people are sort of forgetting that. And I think as we saw them sort of struggle in series, the ending outcome, they'd win in 5 or 6, but every game they didn't really blow teams away that they were vastly superior to. This Cavs team is on par with them, if not better talent wise. Can the Cavs be mature enough to hang in there in the games when they get mucked up? Because the Celtics know how to muck a game up. Will they be able to just get through it? Because I could see them getting to the conference finals. Can they get to a game 7? Because I think at home in a game 7 in Cleveland, I actually would pick them. But you got to get to game 7. That's the issue for the Cavs.
And then you hedge out the 200 that you had on them. Bet the other team. One quick thing, too. Is there a curse, Slovenia, right? The Slovenian curse that Luka Doncic, the trade, has now sort of by manners that could only be answered and looked upon, dissected from an angle of the occult. But Dallas now with Kyrie Irving out for the season, torn ACL, and of course they already lost Anthony Davis. Lakers are winning virtually every game. So I tried to look up if there was any kind of Slovenian curses that were well known, like the curse of the Bambino. And this comes in conjunction with our desire to maybe clean up a little bit of our language on the show here, because you don't want it to become an F-bomb fest every day. I mean, does that cheapen the depth of your conversation? I don't know. I mean, I have mixed emotions about that. So I tried to look up Slovenian curses, and all I found were Slovenian curse words. Okay. And then I'm trying to figure out what the literal translation. I mean, is this really something that you say to somebody and they feel horrified that you like spit in their face in a figurative way? Tristo Kazmati Medvedev. Isn't that something you yell at Danil Medvedev when he's showing up an opponent erecting like a fool? And it actually means 300 hairy bears.
Oh, that's bad.
So if I said that to you, Lubie, would you be taking wild and irreversible offense?
Yes.
Oof. So that's to you, Lubie. 300 hairy bears. All right, we're going to go old school with Tony Segreto. We have the iconic Tony Segreto standing by here. He's been standing by for a while as we got kind of meandered our way through a bunch of stuff. And Lubie's theory, which now more and more I'm becoming convinced to go ahead and take.
Yeah, 8.5 to 1 on the number 1 seed. I mean, why not? It's worth it. Because I'd put him right there. I mean, that's but that's not 8.5 to 1. That's
no. I mean, just saying that normally we're betting chalk here like fools, and there's 8.5 to 1 on the third-rated team in the price to win the NBA championship. We might have to do something. Of course, let's screw it up by parlaying that to other.
Yeah, Lubie, you don't bet the favorite in the feature race at Gulfstream.
Well, that's
or any race for that matter. What are you talking about? Although, I don't know, there's been a gagging sea of chalk on many of the days that I've been out there. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you, Jeff and Lubie?
Good morning, my friend.
Heard your conversation. Jimmy Butler is gone, thank God.
That's all.
I don't feel that way
I
about
do.
it.
I
don't.
do because he was cancer. He
Oh,
was
at the end, he was.
But before that, I mean, honestly, when the Heat acquired Jimmy Butler, I thought, geez, they sort of, got like a high
yeah,
B
yeah,
grade
yeah.
level guy in terms of being a guy who's going to carry your team and be the major impetus for a championship. I never thought they would get the results they did with Jimmy Butler. Whether that was a combination of luck, hard work by other guys, symmetry, Heat culture, Spolstra, Riley, whatever it was, I didn't think that they could do what they accomplished uh, with just Jimmy Butler as
Yeah.
their main impetus. So, I figured if he was a secondary guy to somebody like some monster like Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay, hooray, let's start arranging a parade. But I don't really begrudge him. I mean, he wanted out of here. It was kind of
Yeah, it
ugly the
was
way it
ugly.
happens. Or it happened, but that's the way it happens in sports today, isn't it? I mean, that's especially the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA
What are
especially,
you gonna do?
but I think that if you request a trade, or if you're not getting, you're not getting along with the coach or whatever, they'll trade you. He made it very public, and it got ugly, and it left a bad taste in people's mouths.
Yes.
He just really did, and I don't begrudge him either, but good riddance. He's
Yeah. Well, and then you ask yourself, we were talking, I think it was Ian Eagle that was talking about that player you mentioned earlier, Lubie. But
It was
yeah, we were
Iron
talking
Man.
with,
It was Iron Man. It wasn't Scoop.
yeah, and we were talking with Scoop Skolnick yesterday, and we were asking him, so where are you at right now? And that would be the other question. I mean, I don't know that they were going much further with Jimmy Butler, even if he didn't have this sulking fit and decide that he wanted out of here. I mean, were their prospects all that
No,
much
I don't
brighter?
think so either. But when your star is mouthing off, no matter what happened to him in the past,
Yeah.
and
And he always did that, Tony. I mean, every place he's been. It was kind of like a series of marriages that I've experienced where.
Did you mouth off, Jeff?
No, I mean, but
I
at what
can't
point did it
imagine you
turn? I
getting
mean,
upset.
well, I'm, not inclined to in general, but you've seen me at the track throwing programs at the wall and cursing out tellers for punching wrong tickets. No, I punch my own tickets just to avoid that. All right, we're going to come back with more. Tony Segreto, old school. We'll get into a few things with Tony. And of course, Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, scheduled to join us as well. So we'll be back with all of that in a moment. It's 8:40.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-45.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor.
All right, welcome back to the show. Always a pleasure to feature on these Wednesdays, Old School with Tony Segreto, and that's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz up there in square number 1, and I'm Jeff DeForest. So, all right, Tony, I was thinking about this because we were supposed to have an interview yesterday here on Bleacher Brothers with John Feinstein, who we've spoken with many, many times. I always love
Yes.
talking to John, and He's one of those guys I think that would capture your heart and imagination because his books mostly have gone well and deep behind the scenes, including you mentioned My Relationships, a book that epitomized, in fact, a couple of the counselors. I don't know if this happened with Lubie with his marriage counseling, but they would have on the table where they usually have like a bunch of old magazines as you were waiting to go in to have your session, a season on the brink, which was an apt description of exactly what was happening in your relationship at the time. So, I was thinking, well, geez, a couple of things came to mind. If you were going to do a season on the brink 24-25 edition, and we didn't get a chance to ask him this, but would it not necessarily have been UConn as the team that you would want to follow, where you've got a two-time defending champion, a nutbag of a coach who's prone to hysterics, and especially when things aren't going his way, even when they are, in Danny Hurley, I mean, you couldn't ask for more illuminating stuff to go ahead and follow and chronicle. What would be great. But then it struck me that the couple of years I was doing Hurricane basketball, they were horrible. I mean, they lost their first 17 Big East games before they finally beat St. John's and Felipe Lopez that one night and at Alumni Hall. And then, I was traveling with a team that essentially was beyond, hadn't even reached the brink. And I'm thinking you did a lot of traveling. I don't know if you were ever on a regular basis where you were flying around a lot. The football thing was like once a week. Baseball was only occasionally, but and they didn't have you in basketball for the predominant period of time that you were doing sports. But have you ever? I mean, what's the feeling like? How would you describe being around a losing team? Because that was rough. I mean, nobody ever looked up on a bus. It was really crazy. It was always dead silence after every game
I traveled, both Dolphins and Hurricanes and baseball occasionally. And then I traveled to Super Bowls and, various sort of sporting events. But when the Dolphins were losing and losing bad, there was nothing to be said ever. Even after a win, they kept quiet. Schuler would come down and look. He would like address the how the generals dress the staff. When the team was a dead silence.
Yeah, I hate that. I really
hate it. My God.
I don't like it at all. I mean, as a member of the media, it's one thing because you're kind of like
sitting there.
It's like you're at a funeral. You didn't really know the guy, but you're trying to. But I remember I was more inclined to be like the Phil Linds on any bus when I was playing some ball and actually traveling with a team. Why is everybody so down? Almost like the guy coming into their fraternity house at Animal House. It's not over.
Shake it off already. Like get on with it.
How does that help you? I mean, does it help you to just act like you're literally, being led to your grave?
I can understand you reflecting on the game, but you got time to do that. But on the plane,
How come coaches don't? I mean, am I dead wrong about this? Wouldn't it be more beneficial for coaches to teach players the old Jim Morrison thing? Learn to forget.
Supposed
you're good. You're going to be
forget
next time.
Instead of wins as well. Forget wins as well. I mean,
you're supposed to move on.
Yeah. Lubie, I got to ask you a question.
Yes.
That picture of you with Jeff at the opening, is that you were like 12?
Oh God, I don't know.
He's matured. Well, he's aged. Look, you can age rapidly working together as we have. Oh no, he looks good in that picture.
Yeah, he's got hair.
5 years ago.
He looks like he could have been on Happy Days.
Really, before Shirley, I think that's what the problem is. That was before my wife. I had lots of hair.
How deeply you're Mr. College Sports, Tony. We know this about you. I mean, you would rather if pro sports went away, you'd still be okay because you love your college sports. I mean, even delving as deeply into women's softball as a mainstream. I think that we should have been talking about it. It was you and Jim Sarney bugging us day after day. Hey, when are you going to mention the tournament? It's like, what tournament? What are you talking about? They just crowned the champion there. UConn won and all. And then it was the women's softball tournament that you were talking about. So no bigger college sports fan than you. How deeply At what point do you pick up college basketball? And did you ever win an office pool or at all of the various television spots that you were, which was mostly what? Was it always
NBC.
NBC?
Well, with CBS to start.
NBC.
With
The whole
CBS
time.
to start, and then NBC.
There you go. So two of the three major networks out there. I don't know if you want to consider Fox as part of that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I guess they would be. They're in the game. But two of the four major networks you worked at, did the cleaning lady win every office pool? And were you ever even in the money?
I was
think
in the
I might have
money
finished
once, and
yeah.
more often than not, I was out in the first round.
Yes, like buried in, and it's hard to get buried in the first round.
You know, you gotta love the tournament because it opens the field to people who don't care. People who do.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a Jake Paul fight.
or Corey.
Well, why is it my one of my favorite sports going all the way
Corey,
back? I mean,
I think it's cheering Corey. He gets into the ring and gets the snot. I mean, the snot
hammered every night. I think they took off ESPN Classics because there wasn't a single night that Jerry Quarry wasn't getting the stuffing beaten out of him. And it became like cruel and unusual to even watch. But why does my sport have to be represented by a clown to attract attention? I mean, Caitlin Clark was a legitimate commodity in the sporting world. She was deserving of, I mean, maybe not the fanatical attention she was getting, but certainly she lit the spark there for women's college basketball.
She was the only thing that you could hang your hat on.
It had other players like the recently retired Diana Taurasi who illuminated the sport, but and many others. But yeah, she really brought it to another level, I think, in terms of overall public awareness.
Now you look at it. Now you're interested enough just to look at the standings or.
Well, I'm watching more of it than I used to. I'll admit to that, and I hate to admit that to you, Tony.
Why do you hate to admit it?
We've been riding you like the two ball at Beulah Park for the last 20 years, pounding you about your interest.
You wonder why your karma's bad.
All right, but you're absolutely right. The tournament attracts people to the game that never. I mean, people are glued to television sets from noon on a Thursday, watching teams with hyphens and from areas that they could never identify, even with Google Maps, and yet you're rooting in almost every game, unless you have a stake in the team that's the favorite. You're rooting in almost every game for the upset.
Oh yeah, you are.
You want Akron to knock off Duke or whatever. I mean, you're just always rooting for that schmenky team from the Atlantic 10 to somehow score an upset in the first round. And how great is it when it happens?
How great is it? And in women's basketball, you got a bevy of teams that can win it. Notre Dame, Auburn. They're all in it, and it's got to be said that basketball is the premier bet at this time. It's a bet the tournament. Even if you don't care, even if you're an alien that just falls on the earth today.
I love it. Then you're such a gambling advocate.
All in, Jesus.
Well, we didn't know that you were a complete degenerate until very in the last couple of years here on the show. And you were so clean cut, though. You represented everything that was good, that was ethically clean about being an American. I mean, when you were up there on the news, you had Cronkite-like credibility. Who knew? Now, I knew that, secretly you were, out there making bets on the dogs in between shifts, but I don't know. Was that more from a gambling standpoint or to cop that prime rib, which was very good at the Biscayne County?
Gambling. And
you and Weaver the Weatherman were out there punching, man, like maniacs. It was always great. Now, did you venture off to Dania Highlight at any time?
I saw Dania.
In between shifts?
We're going to send Joey the link next week.
Okay.
Remind me.
Okay.
And then we'll get him on. Yes, I went to Dania Highlight. That's it was an iconic place.
Yeah, and Miami, it was unbelievable.
Miami
even when the cocaine
was the epitome of its time. Miami was rocking.
It was rocking.
Just rocking.
Yeah.
Just rocking.
Our good friend, and may he rest in peace,
Oh.
Kevin Kaufman. Kevin, we called him Cavino, was the marketing director there. And I think, was he the guy that actually dubbed it the Yankee Stadium of Highlight? And then he had John Facenda doing their commercials.
How he got him was impossible. But he
and a brilliant stroke, because I mean, immediately that was the voice from God of NFL films for many, many years that you couldn't help but pay attention.
Hey, why don't we start a pool between? Well, Ed Garcia is not going to be with us.
We're gonna do a show.
Garcia's going to win it. You know that. Well, he probably has Michigan going all the way. What do you think? Dusty Mays,
they're struggling
with this team. And holy Vladimir Golden, what are we talking about? The kid was at FAU just a couple of years ago. Couldn't even walk. I mean, if he got out of his car, he was going to fall down and get a loose ball foul. And now, powering Michigan's rebounding concerns and maybe giving him somewhat of a shot. Anyway, so what's your approach, Tony? I mean, we just got sandbagged yesterday. I started to pretend that I'm not pretending to anybody that I'm any kind of expert on any of this stuff. We don't. I mean, a longtime observer. You see certain things. Sometimes you can smell an upset, even if you don't know that much about the two teams that are involved. And you know right away what. I mean, what is your first inclination? Is it to pick the higher seed in every game? How do you approach Lubie? I don't know how you do it. Obviously not well, but how do you do it?
Lubie?
I target the 5 and 12s and the 4 and 13s. And I usually stay away from the 1s and the 2s. I know there's always a 2 that can struggle. We've seen 1s recently, but you're going to get at least 1 5-12 and you're going to get at least 1 4-13 upset. But the problem for me is over the years, I've watched less and less college basketball in the regular season. So it's more of a blind. Going off like the last week, I'll watch a lot of the analysts, but like you've said, the analysts usually suck at picking the tournament. So it usually takes me in some weird lane where I've actually done worse when I do.
And not to get into politics, but Obama, who I greatly respected because he still shot baskets, was the worst shot playing loser that you've ever seen in your lifetime. And I love the guy, but geez, it was nice to see somebody trying to pick the tournament. It was great. We don't want to get into it too heavily, Tony. We have a moratorium on that for the time being here. And you notice we've cleaned up our language.
Yes, you have.
Although I'm cursing in Slovenian. Tristo Kosmati Medvedev. And as I said, that's no knock on Daniil Medvedev, who is a player that I like watching the guy play. He's like Ichabod Crane out there. It's amazing. It doesn't even have like a good clothing deal. I mean, his clothes look like some schmatero type of reject. They wouldn't even sell their
There's a word I haven't heard since my father passed.
Remember when that was like a famous fashion destination? A place called Schmatero.
I don't know what a famous.
My
mother used that term a lot because she was.
My father was in the clothing business, and most of the people he worked with were either of Spanish descent or of Jewish descent.
Nice.
So he would come home with
lots of Yiddish and Spanish.
Oh my God. He got me eating matzahs.
You're thinking, hey, it would be a lot better if this stuff was leavened. Let's face it. I loved them though too. I used to get them straight from the factory there, and there was a place my father would take us to, and it was questionable whether he was even Jewish to begin with, but he sort of like knew where to find like the real Jewish stuff in New York, and that was a big part of it. But it wasn't unique to Jewish people. Like Irish guys were coming down there, with a mug full of beer, and they're going in and grabbing like a box of matzahs.
Yes,
it was.
My father, God rest his soul, would say, Anthony, there are two types of ethnic groups that people wish they were: Jewish or Italian.
There you go.
And could be, somewhat one and the same. All right. So what's your approach then, Tony Segreto? We know nothing about how you do this. So you did say that you were an infrequent casher in the NBC and CBS office pools. I don't know that you acknowledged that it was always the cleaning lady. Could have been somebody that was a clerk in the mailroom would come up. No, but that they could be diehard sports fans and just trying to supplement their income because they're betting their brains out and losing. So they could be the stone degenerates there. But it was never the sports guys. I don't know.
Never, ever the sports guys. The sports guys outthought themselves. I have to admit, I outthink it
Yeah.
Sit there and I think, well, St. Peter's, was it St. Peter's?
Yeah,
St.
they
Peter's,
made
yeah.
it to what, an 8?
Yeah.
Or
That
4?
was,
They made it to a 4.
shocker all the way through.
My God. And then toward the end, you're rooting for them, and they hit the stone wall and they fall down. But I think I'll just throw darts.
Honestly, that's not the
I
worst.
like a lot of other aspects. You bring up like coaches that sort of, made their
Talk
claim
about
to fame in the tournament. There have been a lot of those guys that went on the rise and, rose and continued to prosper in the game and bring good teams back after being the old Bob Dylan thing, complete unknowns going into it or close to it. Players, I mean, have made remarkable runs. It's always a lot of fun to see that. I mean, who would know who Jimmer Fredette was? Except for that horrific performance that he had in the 3-on-3. Tony, you could have taken this guy to the hole and scored on him. My God, Jimmer, at least get in shape for this thing. What an embarrassment. How could we lose 3-on-3 basketball? I don't care. You could tell me, Tony Segreto, all day long that the rest of the universe has caught up with the United States. It's our game.
It's our game. It's our game.
Losing 3-on-3 by throwing an overweight Jimmer Fredette and any number of Barry offspring out there, and it was all the Barrys that we never heard of, that never had like a pro career. Oh yeah, he played some games in Israel. I don't care. I mean, it's like garbage out there.
Let's when is the
All I was saying during that tournament was Tristo Kazmata Medvedev.
There you go.
Which means 300 hairy bears in Slovenia.
Yes. Hey, did you cancel your New York Post?
I had to, yes.
You did like a month ago.
I'm so frustrated I couldn't take it anymore. I do miss it. At the same time, am I still living, Tony? Yes. So
why'd you disband it? Why'd you get rid of it?
They weren't bringing
the
it.
delivery became so horrific that it was just becoming useless to me. Because I was getting the newspaper, a morning newspaper, which I used to see for most of the 20 years. It was at my doorstep before like 5:30, which I really enjoyed because we're up early. Lubie used to see me bring the damn thing into
Bring it
radio
into the
station.
station at 5. Yeah.
I left for there at like 5:30 in the morning, so it was pretty consistent. And I just like being able to see. I have 2 computers set up here, but I'm obviously using one to do the transmission of the show, and then the other one, because of various setbacks it suffered, maybe from the material I was looking at, it is just as slow as you could possibly be. I mean, it's Oliver Miller trying to chase the team down the court after he ignited a fast break, and he's not really running.
You can make a cup of coffee while the page is loading.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's prohibitive to try to look stuff up while you're addressing a camera. You know this as well as anybody, right? What do they always tell you? Look at the camera, Tony. Stop looking at your bets on your phone. Imagine Sonny on TV. My God, Sonny.
Oh my God.
That would have been crazy. Right? He was looking constantly. That score phone thing. I mean, he wore out his thumb. He had to get surgery.
Oh my God.
Punching up the score phone. And then in the middle of a game that was going just absolutely as favorable as it could be for the Hurricanes.
He was
all of a sudden he would slam the book on the table and go, yell out something along the lines of Tristo Kazmita.
They're coming down the court. Oh look. Oh my God.
Yeah, he had lost like the 13th leg of a 15-leg parlay before this was popular.
There was a time in the press box that he won a game and he lost the game at the same time.
Yeah,
the loss was so demonstrative to him, so debilitating to him that he slammed. He was drinking a scotch in the middle of a game.
Surprise, yeah.
And
those were the days, Tony.
Slammed the glass and it broke. And I jumped back because
wow. So you needed a cut man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I thought you were going to tell the story. Didn't he put a hole in the wall there in the
oh yeah. He put a hole in the wall
at
the Orange Bowl. Yes, he did.
Those are always classic. Andy Byer, the great Andy Byer, after being DQ'd from like a $2 million payoff in a pick six before these payoffs had gotten to those astronomical levels even. This was in the early days of the wager. Put a giant hole through the wall of the Gulfstream Park press box. And they actually, I think, framed it before they tore the building down. It was like a Warhol painting. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic.
I missed the tracks. I missed the tracks.
You'll be out there Friday, Tony.
No. I missed the old tracks.
That was nice there.
just.
Wintertime, you'd be at the bar, and all of a sudden you're having a drink with Paul Horning or something. It was fantastic.
And then
Everybody
you
was
go across
super
the street.
cool.
You go across the street to Monero's, and it was.
That would be great. All right, Tony. Old school for this week. We didn't really get your opinion on how you picked the games. You're throwing darts, is what you were saying.
Yeah, you
Throwing
said he just throws darts.
On darts.
Okay.
I can't admit to knowing anything other than what we discussed in the air, and it's 64 team field. There's going to be an upset.
68 teams now.
68 teams.
Yeah, 68 with the plane nonsense.
There's going to be an upset.
Yeah.
2 or 3 or 4 or.
What was it? Was it Fairleigh Dickinson that guy he became? He won a couple of games. Then he knocked off Purdue. Remember?
Yes.
That was Fairleigh Dickinson, right? Lubie. What?
Oh yeah, the one that beat Purdue when they were a 2 seed. Yes.
Zach Eady in there, the human zombie, and they still couldn't put.
There's going to be an upset.
I love the heavyweight going down right away. It's a great.
The heavyweight going down is the biggest deal in the.
I want to see Big John Tate taking one on the chin from Iron Mike Hercules Weaver after winning every round until the 15th, right on the chin.
The truth of the matter is, and this is testimony to the tournament. My wife, who is a big football fan, and she's a FSU softball fan, will come home and she said, "When does the tournament start? When's it?"
Talking about the basketball tournament.
Yeah, basketball tournament.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and still haven't. We should have given away a trip. I mean, Louis, we were sleeping on this. Maybe if we're still around next year, we can do it because we should give away a trip for everybody to go. All of the Bleacher Brothers followers and Segreto fans, people from Texas Roadhouse, whatever. Go out to Vegas. I've never done it for the first round of the tournament, the Thursday and Friday.
I mean, that must be insane.
And actually, if you stay through the weekend now, I mean that's a beautiful thing. So I've never done it. I would imagine it would be very exciting because you're going from 9 in the morning until past 9 o'clock at night, and then you still have time. I mean, gargling with Visine, of course, from watching all these games, but you still have time to go out, and people aren't even getting started yet.
No,
they're still getting out of bed. It's incredible. Yep. Love that city. That's where we should go, Tony.
Yeah, that's where we should go.
All right, we'll see you Friday out at Gulf Stream Park. Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for being with us. Old School brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. It was never easy, Lubie. Season on the Brink would have to be UConn, wouldn't it? If you were John Feinstein, you're going to book Season on the Brink, UConn this year. How great would that have been? There had to be all kinds of stuff going on in the background there that we will never be aware of. But if it was being chronicled by the great John Feinstein, that would have been a hit. You should have seen the professor's breakdown of this tournament prior to even knowing who's in it. Phenomenal. I mean, it really was. He had this Ken Pom thing going. Was it Ken Pomerantz? Is that the guy's name?
I don't know. They call it the Ken Pom ratings or rankings.
Ken Pom ratings. I mean, you rarely see a degenerate gambler embrace something that isn't really, really good.
Well, he loves Pom.
This guy, and look, the professor is not shy about his own opinion.
No, he knows his stuff.
College football and basketball. He's very convincing that he's on the right side of things. He's not trying to influence you except to say, this is what I like.
No, he stays his opinion. Yeah.
So, to see him embrace these numbers, I mean, it was holy Bill James. What are we talking about here? That was great. And he really had an interesting breakdown about a stat that I never would have looked at. Saying I haven't come into the modern century when it comes to analytics. Because can you not see this stuff? Isn't that what they pay scouts to do?
That's what I mean.
You have to quantify everything with a number. And can you do that, Louie? That's what sports has become.
It helps. It's just, it helps in the overall scheme of how you set up a game plan, but it's not like we've talked about. In certain moments, you do have to go with gut as well. You have to do a little bit of both.
How do you not predetermine that the fat kid in the corner is the guy you should pick on? You can see this stuff, can't you? I mean, if you watched game film or whatever, do you really need a number to attach to the fact that the corner on the left side is getting beaten like a drum? He looks like Elvis Toast Patterson. They're breaking dental records to identify this guy. And the guy on the other side is playing like Deion Sanders. So which way are you going to throw the ball? Do you need look at this. I mean, this wins above replacement is only 0.6.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Get out of here. Wouldn't you throw the guy right out of the meeting? I mean, like you were whipping some helpless tag team partner into the turnbuckle. Unbelievable. All right, Lubie, good job. We will see you later on, and always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll catch you tomorrow, another morning edition here on Bleacher Brothers. Very happy to be with you. And
Encourage us in, so we'll do more trivia fun. We'd love to have some more
that's
new
right.
viewers join in.
Join us for the Trivia Challenge with Dave Gargles Gurgly, where you can actually win a prize.
We win prizes, yes.
You know we're not giving away that trip to Vegas next year. We can talk about it right up until the time where it's time to pony up. Well, something happened. All right, we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:08.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my